Here to discuss the end of his campaign and what voters are looking for from the Democratic Party this fall is former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure, Maritsa.
So let's talk about your decision to end your campaign. Lay it out for us. How long had you been having those conversations, and what was the tipping point?
Maritsa, just the last few days, things really changed, and I had thought things were going pretty well. Great response out in the streets, and solid fundraising, and the things you look for that normally tell you. But unfortunately, we saw 3 polls in a row in very short order the last few days. They just said that people were looking for something else. It's hard for anyone, anybody as a human being to feel like, well, maybe people just don't want you right now. But as a candidate, you kind of have to look at the fact that folks are looking for different things at different moments.
Yeah, let's stay on that point for a minute. Your tweet announcing the decision says you're leaving electoral politics altogether and will focus on other ways to serve. So any idea what that looks like yet?
Yeah, there is endless need right now. It's a really tough moment in the city and all over the country. So, I think about maybe it's a nonprofit organization, maybe it's some appointed role. Maybe it's working in politics, but not as a candidate, helping other good people. I'm really open. I got a lot of desire to serve, a lot to give. And, you make a decision like this. I did not make this decision because I had something else in hand. I made the decision because it was clear to me things weren't working. So, now I'll take some days and weeks to explore and figure out something good.
And as you're in reflection mode here, looking back at your time as mayor, do you think you made mistakes? And if so, is there anything you do differently?
Oh, yeah. I think the most profound, simple way to say it is, I came in as someone who had been a political operative before running for office. And a lot of folks said, well, is this guy going to be any good at government? I hope in the end I was pretty good at government. I'm not so sure I was good at politics. I did get elected twice, with strong margins. But in terms of really thinking about what I had to do as a leader of this big, complex, extraordinary city, I had to communicate a lot more than I did. I had to provide a clear sense of direction. I had to get out to the people more. I just made a lot of fundamental mistakes, in part because being mayor in New York City is really pretty overwhelming. It's, it's been called in the past the second toughest job in America. It's certainly one of the tougher ones. And I said this, I did an op-ed a few months back. I sort of appealing to Joe Biden to learn from some of my mistakes. And one of the things I said is, don't mistake policy for popularity. Joe Biden's got a lot of great ideas, a lot of great policy, but unless it connects with people, unless people feel you and feel you understand what they're going through, it doesn't necessarily hit home.
A senior government and policy advisor was quoted as saying it's very hard to win another office after being New York City mayor because of just so many decisions made on contentious issues. And he even said Moses, Muhammad, and Jesus would not leave popular. Do you agree with that?
It was a very powerful quote, and there's a lot of truth in that statement. I got my start in politics in New York City working for Mayor David Dinkins, but before that on his campaign, actually, when he challenged Ed Koch. Ed Koch was running for the 4th term as mayor, and Dinkins defeated him. Ed Koch is kind of legendary, but he could not win re-election. By the time, Bloomberg left, he was very unpopular. Giuliani before 9/11 was incredibly unpopular. 9/11, obviously painful and very unusual, horrible situation, but that changed everyone's view. So really, if you look at the history, most mayors leave we're sort of having maybe outstayed our welcome. And it does teach you something. It really does. But I think that notwithstanding, I still think if I had learned some of the lessons of the past better, I might have been able to do better staying connected to people. Now, I will say objectively, COVID required really tough decisions. Vaccine mandates are a great example. I'm absolutely comfortable I made the right choice. Vaccine mandates for public employees, teachers, first responders, for restaurants and bars, and ultimately for all private sector. It was the right thing to do. It helped the city rebound from COVID. It kept people safe. It saved lives. It was the toughest vaccine mandate program in the country, but a lot of people didn't like it. that's a good way to rub some people the wrong way if you got to do something like that. So sometimes the right thing to do in a crisis is not the best thing for popularity. But if you have to govern in a crisis, you got to do the right thing for the people, and sort of to hell with what's going to happen with your political future at that point.
So switching to this national scene, you mentioned the op-ed you wrote. Some new unfavorable polling numbers just came out about President Biden running for re-election. Where do you stand? Should he run in 2024?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize, and I can kind of relate, even though I've only been mayor of a big city, I can at least relate to some of the things he's dealing with. He cannot announce that he's not running anytime soon. Let's say he's even having doubts. He simply can't, because he has to run this country. And by the way, in many ways, he's running so much of the world. I mean, the coalition he put together to defend Ukraine is actually one of the greatest foreign policy accomplishments in decades. It's the greatest unity we've seen in the West, certainly since World War II. And so, he cannot undercut his own abilities, his own leadership by saying, oh, by the way, I'm not running for president in 2024. That's a decision that I think objectively, as a leadership matter, has to wait until next year.
And in your opinion, are Democrats moving with enough urgency to satisfy their base on issues like abortion, gun control, and same-sex marriage, hot topics right now?
I would say on those issues, much more than on the kitchen table issues where Democrats need to focus more. So obviously it was right and it was powerful to see the House act on marriage equality, also defending interracial marriages, which used to be illegal in this country. I mean, my wife and I come from different races, and it's a love that's lasted now for 30 years, but that was illegal at the time we each were born. So, I think the Democrats are making a really powerful statement in the House to say we're not going backwards on all these fundamental rights. I think Democrats have been powerful on the gun safety issue. It's important. People need to hear it. They need to feel it. And they've seen action. I want to see even more from the executive branch. But I don't think that's all it's going to take to win the election. We got to get back to the kitchen table, do something to lower prescription drug costs, do something more to show we're fighting inflation. Biden's got a great plan to tax the wealthy and corporations. Joe Manchin standing in the way now, but Biden can still go fight for that plan and tell people where he wants to take the country. So I think we're partway on the right path in terms of November, but if you don't bring that economic piece to the table, I don't think you can win a lot of the people you need to win.
Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Take care, Maritsa.